Well, folks, the end of this week is going to bring the curtain down on the fantastic career of the one and only Paul Watson. And this interview is taking place in the home team changing room here at Links Park, and an opportunity for you to talk about, I suppose, some of the moments that there have been in here. And I think we'll start with your arrival. I mean, how you ended up signing for the Mo in the first place.
Yeah, I think a while ago now. So,
There's realisation
yeah, just really trying to remember how long ago that was. But yeah, I was actually at Peterhead. I'd went up to Peterhead from Forfar at the end of the season, and I ended up changing manager, and it never quite worked out, as great as I'd hoped. So I knew Ray Farnham from my time at Dundee, so he would kind of agreed I was going to come here in the summer. So that was kind of maybe January, just after January time. So I went on loan to St Andrews United, the junior side from Peterhead, just to save me travelling away up there when I wasn't playing and whatever. So kind of knew in the lead up, and I thought I'm just going to go to St Andrews and or somewhere and get some games on loan until the end of the season, and then. So it was technically from Peterhead and then signed here in 2012, I think. Was it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah. 2012. So, yeah.
I mean, when you're first here, I mean, at that point, do you ever imagine the career and the time that you're going to ever spend here? I mean, is it ever something that crosses your mind?
Nah, I don't think it's anything that crosses your mind. I think you just kind of go from season to season and week. You go from game to training to game to game, week to week, and that's it. And the season's up, and you never really think, right, I'm going to stay here for 4 or 5 years, as a as a ballpark. But I think I'm trying to remember back that when I first signed, we trained up here Tuesday, Thursday, 2 nights a week. Ronnie used to make food for us after training, quite often hot dogs, believe it or not.
So that gives you an idea of his diet.
Yeah, so I used to go through after train out on the pitch and go through and get something to eat and then head down the road. But do you know what? It was actually good. I do remember we had even at that time, we had a good bunch of boys.
Yeah.
Maybe too much hilarity and too much, but it was actually quite enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's interesting to hear that, because your first few years here are certainly not been as successful as the sort of last 7-8 that we've had.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think back to that Brora game, I mean, what are your abiding memories? Again, the sort of lead up to that, and just how important. Let's be honest, probably a more important game than the game to win the league. In reality, you're talking about the potential survival of the club.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it was it was obviously evident. Probably, I don't know how long it was before it was confirmed, but we were obviously on that slope down to that position, and that was hanging over us. So I think just the nerves, probably. Yeah, I remember the game up there. There wasn't much in it, but there wasn't a great game of football. And probably just that the overarching feeling of what the impact of that could have been for the club was massive. Obviously on the day again, just nerves, and I think they scored first, I'm sure, from memory, and similar to like the Elgin game when you win the league and you think, oh, here we go, but the boys managed to turn it around and get it over the line. But certainly not a place that we kind of, I don't know if we probably did say it, but I think probably subconsciously the club probably said to itself, we can't let that happen again.
Yeah.
So
it certainly wasn't a pleasant experience
No.
for anyone involved in the club. That is the reality.
No.
But the thing is, you're able to actually go out there and do something about it.
Yeah.
The rest of us are just sort of sat there.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that's an even greater added pressure that's placed upon you?
It is, but I think when you're out there playing, that kind of goes to the side. You're just getting on with the game, and I've said it before. Like even when you're, if you're watching a big game, if you're on the bench or injured or whatever, and it's almost worse than when you're out there and playing. You just get on with it, and the adrenaline and the game takes care of itself. I think when you're watching and you can't control it, it's worse. definitely. So yeah, I think for the board and the fans and everyone else involved, it was probably a worse experience than for us on the pitch.
Yeah.
But just relief at the end of the day, just total relief.
I mean, do you think when you look at it, would you celebrate that as much as you did winning the league? Did it, or was it more as you say,
I think
we've got that done, let's not get ourselves in that situation?
I think the build-up of pressure and the worry, I think for everyone probably came out in that at the after the game, and I think there was a video of boys kind of jumping about here and spraying beers about and whatever. We certainly weren't celebrating finishing bottom of League Two, being the worst professional team in Scotland. But I think the relief and the pressure coming off that everyone felt was probably that's why we had a few beers after it, as opposed to say we've done well here. Yeah, there was no kidding on that we'd done well.
The thing is, let's be honest, that day, it wasn't just in here there were beers and champagne. It was throughout the club.
Yeah,
because as you say, not a day to celebrate as such, but it just, thank goodness that we're still in this professional league.
Totally. And you see it since then. The clubs that have went down,
and not
come back. So there's a lot of ambitious teams out there. So if you go into these leagues, then it's not an easy thing to do to get back up into the senior leagues.
Definitely not. And of course, you say, let's not get ourselves into that position again as a club. And you have the arrival of SP.
Yeah.
And the rest is history, as they say. But I mean, you obviously in the changing room for various managers.
Yeah.
Did he bring something totally new?
Yeah, I think he did. I think he probably, I think I'm thinking about this, on and off, and I think when I think about that group of players that we had at that stage against Brora, Gary Wood, Webby, me, Terry, Jamie Winter, a lot of the boys, like, not bad players. Marvin Andrews, not bad players. Probably just there was a whole thing about the club and the dressing room, let's say, it was maybe too, it wasn't serious enough, or it was just maybe wasn't a culture of winning there at the club. And I think as soon as the manager came in, he actually, openly said that he wants us to be the best part-time club in Angus. And that was, he kind of said that from the start. And I think that freshness and there was other changes then happened behind the scenes with the board and everything, and I think the club just totally turned around. But yeah, the manager made it. Then that's no disrespect to Heggie and John Hoke. They done brilliant in keeping the club up. I think it just needed to change at that point the following season when it hadn't quite started off as well. And I think we were bottom of the league when Stuart came in, and we just went on a steady rise from there. And obviously we got in the playoffs, and then we've kicked on ever since in League One. So I think he just brought about a different view on things, a different culture. He added players that he needed, that he knew, that he trusted, and were of quality as well, which obviously culminated in that team that you see that won the league. So
in a very short space of time.
A really short space of time. And I think from the December that he came in to get in the playoffs against Peterhead at the end of the season, which it was just too quick. We weren't good enough for that. But to then kick on the following season, his impact at the club and was evident quite quickly. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people obviously are never going to know what's going on in here. I mean, so what's the experience like for you guys when you rock up at home on a Saturday? So what time are you coming in? What's going on, in terms of before the match?
Yeah, so for typical home game, we'll be here sort of 1:30. We'll meet, and usually, everyone's kind of got their own little things that they do. Some will be on the treatment table, seeing the physio and getting a rub and strappings or whatever. But usually, I just like to come in. Somebody's always usually got the music on. I used to be in charge of the music actually.
You got too old for that.
I think I got too old for that. So I've been kicked off that a few times over the years. Bruni's in charge of that nowadays.
I can see that.
He's Taylor's type of character. So no, it's a great place to be, especially when the music's on, and if you're on that, if the club's going well and you're confident and you've got you feel that confidence you're going to win. It's a great place to be. So yeah, I've been fortunate to be doing it for 20 years now at that senior level, I think. So It's the best days of life, everyone always tells you.
Yeah.
And you always think that they're talking rubbish, but it's an old cliche, but it definitely is. Especially if you're enjoying it and things are going well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll come in 1:30. The manager will maybe do a bit and speak at, coming up for 2:00, and then we'll get ready. Him and Ross will speak, and then we'll go out for the warm-up about 2:20, and then back in about 10:02, and he'll say his last few bits, and then it's kind of over at the players. So over at the players at that point, yeah. Until he comes running down for the stand.
I start shouting at you.
2
minutes in.
Yeah, so that could be anything from 5 minutes to 50 minutes. Depends how it's going. Just hear the gate slam, and he's coming down the stairs. So, but
yeah. I mean, have you got any superstitious sort of tendencies in here, or is there anybody that's got a wee routine they go through?
No, I don't really. I've maybe had some over the years, but nothing really like. If you have a good game, you tend to try and do the same thing.
Aye.
Bit funny about boots and socks and making sure that that's all right, but no, nothing too sort of strict. Sean Dillon's got a few weird tendencies that he likes to do, just strange little things. But yeah, I've nothing really too strict that is superstitious stuff.
I mean, the thing is, you said 20 years. That you've been doing this, coming into a changing room with guys.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know already this is something you're going to really miss? Or do you think it'll be when you're not here on a Saturday that you'll go, oh?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I'll miss, about being at the club is the boys. Yeah. You spend a lot of time with them, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, over the course of a season, 40 odd weeks. It's a lot of time, more than you see your best mates that you've been mates with since you were young. So it's certainly the biggest thing that I'll miss. But and especially this group. But I might be part of another changing room, moving forward.
I think you would miss it too much.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. Is I feel you're going to need to still be part of all of it.
Yeah, definitely, and I still feel. I feel just at the time just now with the way that it's gone this season that this is the time for it to happen. But I still feel fit and able and feel I can contribute at a good level. So I'm keen to keep playing if that option comes. The phone might not ring, so
yeah.
I might not be in another changing room, but yeah, I'll be keen to keep playing. But we'll see. I'll need to ask Lindsay if that's all right as well first.
I'm sure she'll be delighted to get you on. I'm not gonna lie. I'll tell you one thing that I would definitely not miss about this changing room is the temperature.
Oh, it's
absolutely freezing in here.
Yeah, it's Baltic.
Is this the norm?
Yeah, I think. But when you've got 20 odd boys in here getting ready for a game on a Saturday, But yeah, I think the club could do with chucking a few quid in here. I think.
I don't think it would be money wasted.
I tell you one thing that has not changed since I came to the club is they toilets and they showers.
top of the list.
And I'm just looking around at these ceiling tiles. Pretty sure that's champagne and beer for the day that we won the league. But I add to the character.
You should leave a wee list of the things that you think are.
I'll speak to John and Michael on that before I leave. Yeah, sure they'll listen.
I mean, I know we're in the changing room, you talked about lads, but you know what? The experience on the bus as well when you're going places and coming home.
Yeah.
I mean, that again, the camaraderie that can be created there is just tremendous.
And that's, like you say, just that time that you spend with the players, like you say, you get to know them really well. And you're Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, but a Saturday could be 9 in the morning till 9 at night. You spend 12 hours with these guys from the various pickups and the game and whatever and getting back. So yeah, it's all good memories.
Yeah, happy days.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been in another changing room yet, but don't you worry about it. Don't you panic, that phone will ring.